let's move on to our next topic. Black swimmers in the sport. What do you think about this, Elvis?
Yo, something's going on. There are more black swimmers at the University of Tennessee alone than there was in the entire NCAA when I was swimming. In fact, I before the show I looked online. I said, let me look at the roster. Lamar Taylor, who's from my hometown, Bahamas, shout out. Jordan Crooks, Lily Daly, Nikolai Blackman, Julian Crooks, Jasmine Rumley. That's just Tennessee. Florida, Marvin Johnson, also from my hometown, Bahamas, shout out. Julian Smith, Josh Liendo, Aris Reynolds, Zuri Ferguson. That's just Florida. That's like 3 times the amount I've seen in NCAAs when I was swimming. Yeah. Where are we all coming from? I'm loving it, but where? And they're dominating. They're not just hiding in the shadows. These are some real swimmers.
Yeah. So kind of funny story. Make sure we put this ticker up, right? When I was swimming, so we got a preview of this when I was like a little kid. I was 14 years old, right? And at tags, which is those of y'all who don't know, the greatest state championship meet in the world. You pretty much got to have almost a quad A time to qualify if you're 11 and up. It's a double A. It's a triple A, but it's like if you get the time, you're going to quad A time. You know what I'm saying? The top 8 kids are usually pushing in the top 10 range of times. Very, very fast meet. And when I was 14, there was one white swimmer in the 50 free final. Everybody else I think it was me, another black kid, like 3 Latinos, and I forget who the other person was. But I remember my dad was like, he's like, "Do you know there was only one white person in the heat?" And I'm like, "Of course." I'm like, "No, like, I'm trying to race." But he was telling me that, and even like the time I grew up, kind of what you're saying, which helped me a lot, even with business and my own stardom in Texas, is me and my brother were the only black kids swimming back then. So, and Carrington was obviously crushing it, 7-7 state championship, top 10 ranked kid, if not number 1 every year. He was number 1 in 50 freestyle when he was 14 in the country, faster than Vlad Morzov, a bunch of Olympians. It's crazy. You go look at the list and it's just like Olympian, Carrington Hill. But yeah, it's just interesting, like, to see how the sport has changed in such a short amount of time. It's like when Bear Bryant got his ass kicked by USC and was like, 4 years after the Civil Rights Act had passed, and then he's probably like, you know what, we should do something about our white backs. Right. So it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see.
I mean, do you think it's more black people are getting interested in the sport or having more access, or just being kind of the Bear Bryant story, like maybe I should recruit some more of them? What do you think it is?
I think it's both. I think so on the both tip, right? Or the Bear Bryant tip, right? So I was leg pressing like almost 600 pounds when I was 16 years old, right? No weightlifting experience. I get to UT, I'm deadlifting 440 as a freshman. My brother gets to UT the next year and he's bench press, like repping 240. And like strongest kid on the team. And he's an August birthday, so he was just 17 and he's out benching the whole team. And it's not like he's a big kid, 6'2", 180 pounds, typical swimmer build. I'm 6'8", 220, typical swimmer build, but somehow way more explosive and powerful. So, and that translates to swimming, So, especially relays, relay events. And then I think on the access part, I think there's more and more black people becoming affluent. I think that's a big part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you're going to start doing different sports, and like it takes a certain personality to play football and basketball. Like basketball, you got to be a public school kid. Like because you got to get used to that greasy talk. Football, you got to be crazy, right? So you're already limiting your sports participation if you're not a runner or a sprinter runner, right? Which is like the elite of the elite, fast twitch black people. you're limiting your sports participation. And then if you're growing up in an all-white neighborhood, swimming is a quick access. So I think that's what it is. I think it's some of the Bear Bryant stuff. But I think a lot of it is just more affluent Black people being in white neighborhoods and having access to other swimmers.
Yeah, that's a good point. And not to take away from that too, but a lot of them are also Caribbean background too.
I was going to say that too. Yeah. Because you're
So
also my hometown.
also my hometown. Yeah. And Nikolai Blackman, I believe, is from Trinidad as well. So yeah, I mean, swimming has always been, I'd say, the number 2 sport behind track and field in the Caribbean. So it's never been like an accident or anything like that. So I mean, we've had a lot of good Caribbean athletes, Sean Fraser, Brett Fraser, that from the Cayman Islands. Jordan Crooks is from the Cayman Islands too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, he's the same. No, you're right.
No, he's from East Cayman.
Yeah, Cayman Islands. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But when I was growing up, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure I was like the only Black swimmer in the state of Kentucky, like the whole state. So it's funny, if I go to any public pool today in Kentucky, somebody swimming will know who I am. They'll be like,
yeah, exactly.
Elvis, right? Like a Black kid named Elvis swimming in Kentucky. You never forget that.
Yeah. It was like my brother's name, Carrington, like,
right.
And Dax and Carrington, like, who had those names? And these 2 tall, skinny Black kids.
Right. Like, that was like 20 years ago I swam when I graduated high school.
So here's something about our builds, though, right? So I'm going to take it that you don't float, right?
No.
Okay, neither do I. So, all right, here's a funny story before we get into this. So at SwimMac, you're gonna love this story. David Marsh I have it on my Instagram, and David Marsh commented, and he was like, "Yep, you learn something new every day." So we're doing this float drill, right? We have to curl into a ball and like stretch your legs out, and then like beat your butt and your legs on the surface, stretch out, and then start swimming, right? So Dave explains this to us, and I'm like, oh, okay, so like all the Black people aren't going anywhere. Right. So me, Roy, Ariana, and Cullen, right? So there's 4 of us. So I'm just like, okay, this is not gonna. Oh, that's like whatever. So we all get in the water, right? And for those of you who don't know, Black people tend to not float well. There's some other belly button, center of gravity stuff, but usually it's because our leg muscles are so dense that it just
bone density as well.
Yeah, bone density. Yeah, that's a big one. But it's the same stuff that makes us poor, buoyant swimmers, makes us better land athletes. So, quick little eugenics for y'all, real quick. But so we're going right, and I remember I was in the lane with Katie Miley, and Katie's just like transformer and just takes off swimming. And I just can't get my legs up. And I'm just like, oh God. So I look up to like see if I'm the only one. And obviously Cole's struggling, Ariana's struggling, and Roy's like laughing. So I'm like, okay, it's what I thought was gonna happen, right? So David comes around finally, and he's like, what are y'all doing? Stop playing around. And Cole looks up and he's like, we're Black, coach. And David just like looks back and forth. And he's like, oh, go ahead. He's just like shoes off and like you start swimming. But yeah, it's just funny because it's like we're just different. And in my own content, I teach a lot of the sprint stuff that David taught me. A lot of it's like having a more upright posture, and then you lean in to get downhill. And I truly believe this about Black swimmers, that because of our leg density, that even if we try to get downhill, it's still going to kind of like level us out athletically into our power position. And almost the same way that you have like a normal boat versus a speedboat where it's designed to get low, but the butt still sinks. Right. So I think that there's, even though we have terrible buoyancy, I think there's a genetic advantage in that won't be talked about and, practiced and researched until much later.
Yeah. And a lot of people kind of afraid to speak of it because they don't want to seem racist or anything. So luckily we can talk about it. So here goes nothing. I mean, I always had the highest vert on our team. Let me see, my vert, at least when I was pro, my highest vert, I hit 41 inches. So I had some of the highest lifts on the team. I was one of the strongest swimmers. There was a viral clip that I did. I did a 60-inch box jump. So I was explosive off the blocks. If you look at my reaction times, I was always the fastest off the blocks. I was like consistently like 0.58 off the blocks, where like the average sprinter would be like 0.63, 0.65, which is a good reaction time. Don't get me wrong.
It's good.
So, I would use that to my advantage, but I'm only like 5'11" and a half. Let's say I'm 6 foot. Let's say I'm 6 foot. My
There's
license says 6 foot.
out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I was not the average 50 freestyler in the Olympics is like 6'4". So I had to use my explosiveness to my advantage and try to hold on. So yeah, it's interesting.
I remember one time I did a 16-inch box jump, and it was at a team elite, and I like stood up after you do it, and I put my head through the roof. And I'm like, okay, let's see. You proved your point. Like, nobody ever did 60 inches again. But yeah, just a little funny story. Black people be getting up, is what we saying.
We get up, baby.